25 years ago, an ice age came. KID A by Radiohead. I cannot believe 25 years have passed since this was released on October 2nd of 2000. I remember like it was yesterday. I think it was about a week before this hit on LimeWire where you could illegally download it, and I, of course, did that. And the first time listening to it, I was in my car and I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, everything in its right place sounded nothing like OK Computer and certainly anything that had come before that either. It was as if, you know, Radiohead, if you could compare it to another band that did an about face like this, it would be like U2's Achtung Baby right after doing Joshua Tree, which Bono referred to that as chopping down the Joshua Tree. Well, the success of OK Computer left Tom York and company felt like they were just in a box and they couldn't escape from it, hence How to Disappear Completely. But man, for them to just totally say, okay, we're pretty much not even going to play the same instruments on this record. There's barely going to be any guitar, not until like 4 tracks in on here. And it was just like his voice was broken up and spit back through a processor on the first track, and it's like, man, this is so weird. And it literally took me years to appreciate this album as much as I do now. And it really wasn't until I believe it was like the day after this was officially released that they played on Saturday Night Live. And when I saw them perform the national anthem, I was like, okay, I get it now. At least you can see how it translates live, and it actually like rocks hard live. And it had so much to do with Tom York specifically, his convulsing, like epileptic seizure looking performance that he gave on there. And, Johnny Greenwood playing the Ons Martenot, I think that's how it's pronounced, which was like last used in the music of Star Trek. And then of course the 4-piece, brass and wood ensemble just going nuts in the background, adding to the crazy mania of that song. And still to this day, like that performance, I think is probably bar none the greatest Saturday Night Live performance I've ever seen. It just made me like, I was already a huge Radiohead fan, but it made me kind of comprehend this album more visually. And then, of course, Idioteque, the performance of that as well, where Johnny Greenwood's like putting wires into a wall. Like, I don't even know what he's doing exactly. But that song as well is a standout on here. And you really start to pay more attention to the melody when you can appreciate what went into this and stop paying so much attention to like, why are there not enough guitars? Why do some of these songs sound like the Legend of Zelda music from Nintendo or something? Like some of the keyboards like on Morning Bell and in Limbo, and just some of the weird sound effects. As time went on and I gave this more than a second chance, I started to realize this album is really quite brilliant. And especially when you start to realize the simplicity in the lyrics and really the lack thereof in some songs. Of course, Tree Fingers is an instrumental, and I wouldn't even call that a throwaway track exactly. It kind of fits into the vibe and gives you a needed breather after the intense How to Disappear Completely, because it's just so emotionally draining. It's like so incredibly sad, that song, but in a great way. I know I'm rambling here, I'm going all over the map, but you kind of have to when you're reviewing an album like this, as momentous as this. This was such a change, not just for the band, but for like all of music was transitioning into the new millennium here. And I think it's never been quite the same since. And KID A is part of the reason for that, for better or worse. I wouldn't even rank this in my top 3 Radiohead albums. I've done my ranking on that. You can check it out on my channel, but it certainly is one of their best. And for the reason that it just is, totally weird as I described it, but it's something that once you get into it, you can't get out of it. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's more than just a vibe. It's like, it can put you in kind of a paranoid state of mind, the Ice Age coming and the cut the kids in half and just some of the really bleak lyrics that Tom York puts in here. He's really literally painting a picture of these ice mountains and just, fire and ice and like just obviously he was kind of terrified at the time. And it makes sense because if you ever go back and watch the amazing documentary, Meeting People is Easy, you can see he almost had like a nervous breakdown with all that they were going through with the huge success of OK Computer. But man, this album, just from start to finish, is great. I seem to remember that Optimistic was one of the first songs I latched onto because that seemed like the most familiar to the sound I was already acquainted with. But as more time has passed, songs like the opening track, Everything in Its Right Place, has become more and more amazing. Now that whenever I put it on, I don't say, what the hell is this? I'm like, oh yeah, it feels like fall. Like, I don't know why, seems like a very fall, autumn type album. And maybe that's because this left such an impact on my brain back in the year 2000. And I did get to see them tour this, not on KID A, but on the Amnesiac tour. And man, all these songs that they played live translate so well in a live setting. All the ones that I've mentioned already, Morning Bell, I remember they played live. Most of the songs on this album, actually. But yeah, it's one that stands the test of time. It's one that, especially the national anthem, man, I gotta say, is still probably my favorite track on here. I think the recording is one that they could never recreate quite the same twice, but that live, even on tour with Amnesiac, they didn't even need their, saxophonists and trumpet players because Tom York would actually do as much of that on the vocals as he possibly could. This band, if you've never seen Radiohead live, I feel for you because, I don't know if they're ever going to reunite again. It's been almost 10 years since A Moon-Shaped Pool. The Smile is its own thing and it's not quite the same. And it's interesting too, to like when you see everything that's happened in the years post this and post Radiohead, if that's a thing. Hopefully they get back together one day. There are rumblings about that. But it's easy to see that Tom and Johnny, who went off to do The Smile, they were kind of the ones that were like, okay, we're going to go in a totally different direction. And the other three maybe with their foot still stuck in the past a little bit, but it kind of just worked and it worked perfectly on this record. I wouldn't say this is a 10 out of 10 by any means. If I'm being kind, I'll give this a strong 9 out of 10. Really, for me, it's almost like more of an 8.5. There's still times that I go back and listen to it and I'm still like, the title track, I'm like, okay, what does this even mean? And it's interesting, everybody, since Radiohead never comes out and says exactly what their songs are about, people have different ideas about what KID A even is, like the first clone child or something, or a robot or whatever. You can make up your own stories and that kind of makes it fun. But listening to the song, it's not one of my favorites to this day. It's just the weird vocal of we've got heads on sticks and you've got the toothpicks or whatever. And musically, I appreciate it more now, like especially what Phil is doing on the drums, but it still wouldn't be in my top 50 Radiohead songs, you know what I mean? So there's definitely great stuff on here. Not all of it to me is spectacular throughout, but as a whole, KID A stands, I think, still as one of the best albums of the new millennium. And can't be denied as just like an artistic statement that Radiohead made saying, okay, we're going for broke here. We're going to just try this new path. And if it works, it doesn't. It was a huge risk when you think about it. And it totally paid off because pretty much anything they put out after this, Radiohead fans were like, yes, just give me whatever you put out there and we will buy it, you know. And yeah, I have to say, I'm a Radiohead fan through and through. I hope they get back together one day. Not holding my breath, but for now, I can go back and listen to this thing and appreciate it and love it. And yeah, if I had to pick my two favorite tracks, definitely the national anthem and Idioteque, with How to Disappear completely right behind it. But just so many great songs. I will be ranking my top 5 favorite Kid A songs this coming Friday, so be on the lookout for that. And guys, thank you so much for watching. We have so much more here on the channel. Top 5s every Friday, album reviews, top 50s, so much more. Thank you for watching, and as always,